You are listening to the Bat Flip Podcast, a baseball podcast from Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network. Here are your hosts, Damian and Matt.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Bat Flip Podcast. My name is Damian here with my co-host, Matt. We're coming to you on March 30th of 2021. We are 2 days, as of recording this, away from opening day. Are you excited, Matt?
Oh, I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. I have not done all my opening day predictions yet to try to win all that money that they're giving away, but that's going to be coming soon for me. But I'm super excited for opening day for the start of the baseball season, of course.
Man, so am I. So am I. Well, we're going to bring our AL predictions today, but before we're going to jump into that. We got a couple injuries that happened this week, and then a couple extensions that were signed. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. Our first injury that we have is Cardinals outfielder Harrison Bader has some right forearm soreness. Looks like he's going to be out for about 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's a tough loss for the Cardinals. Harrison Bader, obviously, especially with there being a forearm or an arm issue, his arm is such a big part of his game, his ability to throw out guys on the base paths. That's going to hurt. But Harrison Bader is a good outfielder all around. He's a fantastic defensive player. He's a little bit limited on the offensive end, but that's going to hurt losing a guy who's so versatile and is so good in center field. And especially for a Cardinals team that, you're going to have to rely on that defense in center field with a couple of not quite as great defenders in the corner outfield positions. So it stinks to see them lose Harrison Bader. It stinks to see anybody get injured. But, 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully he'll be back pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, our next injury we had was White Sox outfielder Eloy Jimenez. He's going to be out 5 to 6 months with a torn pectoral muscle. That he got this injury by trying to rob a home run during spring training the other day.
Yeah, and that's so unfortunate. I mean, obviously, you never want to see a guy get injured like that in spring training. It kind of reminds me a little bit of AJ Pollock's injury a few years ago when he was just diving into home plate, trying to make an effort play, and broke his elbow. You know, it, Obviously you want to see effort plays, but in spring training you got to be smart sometimes. And this is a huge loss for the White Sox because Eloy Jimenez really seemed to figure it out some last year. He was good as a rookie, but he wasn't great. And last year he seemed to be getting on the track to being what a lot of people expected him to eventually be. And he in just 55 games last year put up 1.6 wins above replacement, and a 140 WRC plus is very, very impressive last year. And just at age 24, you were expecting a real breakout season from him, and hopefully he'll be back later in the season. And but that hurts the White Sox for sure. So.
Yeah, hopefully he can come back and help with that playoff push. That last month or so, and
Absolutely.
really give them that big bat that they're probably going to be missing for most of the season, unless a guy like Andrew Vaughn, who just got his contract selected, steps up in a big way somehow. So I think looks like the
Yeah.
guy they're probably going to try and play in left a little bit more.
Yeah, and it's very important now that Adam Eaton signing too, having him in the fold because it just adds another outfielder. And you never know, Adam Eaton might be able to bounce back to his form from when he was previously with the White Sox, veteran player. So it's going to make it all the more important that he plays well this year.
Absolutely. Well, our next injury we have is it's a pretty big hit to the Rays bullpen, and that's relief pitcher Nick Anderson. He has a partial tear of an elbow ligament. It's going to take him out past the All-Star game. Luckily, though, no surgery has been recommended, but as of right now, he's going to be down for 8 weeks of not throwing.
Yeah, that stinks. Nick Anderson's a really good relief pitcher. I think he closed most of the time last year for the Rays, even though, as we all know, the Rays move around their bullpen a lot and they mix and match a lot. But, the Rays bullpen was expected to be extremely good again, but, they lost a couple pieces from last year's team to free agency or to trades. And then they, losing Nick Anderson's a big deal. That back end, that anchor in the bullpen, that's going to hurt them. And it's just the Rays have lost a pretty good bit this offseason. It's going to be tough to overcome, but we'll see. They got a lot of really young, talented players, as we'll discuss here in a few minutes when we talk about our predictions here.
Yeah, and the Rays are really good about trying to maximize everything their pitchers do well and not make them overdo anything. So if a team if there's any team that could handle losing a good reliever, it's probably the Rays because they'll find some way to bounce around it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's kind of the injuries we had happen this week. But we did have 2 extensions signed. One, quite bigger extension than the other. But our first one we had was Lance McCullers signed a 5-year, $85 million extension with the Houston Astros.
Yeah, that's interesting. Lance McCullers, when he's healthy and when he's own, is really really good. He has that power curveball, and that curveball is so good. He's got a really good strikeout rate. He does walk guys occasionally, but it's not too bad. The walk rates aren't too high. He's always had pretty good fastball velocity. This is a guy who he's a really good pitcher. You look up and down his statistics. He's never pitched 200 innings. In fact, he's never pitched 130 innings, and he's a starter. So that's scary. You're talking about a long-term extension, especially a guy who's had Tommy John surgery, pretty recently. But when he pitches, I mean, you look at his 2017 season when the Astros were world champions, a 3.54 ERA or a 4.25 ERA, but a 3.10 FIP, 3.17 xFIP. It's a 2.8 wins above replacement season. He's put up over a win above replacement every single season. And, like I say, he's never pitching 130 innings. He's got a pretty good rate there. So if he can ever build those innings up, this is a guy who I believe could be an all-star level pitcher. I don't know if he's a bona fide ace or anything like that, but he's got all-star talent. And, hopefully he figures out, some way to stay healthy. I mean, that's really going to be the issue here. That's going to be where you're going to see, hey, is Lance McCullers the signing, is that going to be really good in the future or not? It's going to be whether or not he can stay healthy. So.
Well, yeah, like you said, he hasn't pitched 130 innings, and he had Tommy John surgery in 2019. So he came back in 2020 and had 55 innings pitched. So this is a guy who still, like you said, hasn't done a full season altogether, and then now he's coming off a recent Tommy John surgery that only has 55 innings after it. So do we really know how much he's going to bounce back? So good for the Astros to sign McCullers. I mean, especially with the way that their pitching is suffering right now, anyways, to lock up a guy long term. It's good for them and good for McCullers for getting his bag, as people would say.
Yeah, I mean,
So
we're talking about the Astros, and McCullers is going to be their top pitcher for the first half of the season with Framber
yeah,
Valdez out, and obviously Verlander being out. So, I mean, that's going to be tough if they
yeah,
didn't bring him
it's
back.
gonna be him and Greinke at the top
Yeah,
of that
him and
rotation.
Greinke, and Greinke really struggled at the end of the season last year, and you're looking at him being, what is he, 36, 37? I mean, he's
Yeah,
he's up there in age too, so Greinke will probably be good, but
well,
that
yeah,
that
it's
is
like
worrisome.
it's like I saw something today on Greinke. He has the stuff still as a number 2 pitcher. Like his mind and everything's still a number 2 pitcher, but his body just isn't there enough to give him all of everything he needs to be a number 2. So it's basically like his body's a number 4.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty interesting. It's kind of a little breakdown on what Greinke's like right now. So, well, our other extension we had was Randy Dobnak. If you've never heard that name before, I do not blame you. He signed a 5-year, $9.25 million extension with the Twins that has 3 club options. The deal can max out at $29.75 million.
Yeah, Randy Dubnak is kind of a throwback pitcher. Pitches to a lot of contact. Doesn't strike a ton of guys out, but he's got good numbers. His ERA for his career is a 3.12. He's only pitched in 2 seasons in the big leagues though. 15 starts. In 2019, he pitched a little bit out of the bullpen too, but 25 years old. This year he only had a 5.21 strikeout per 9. But he doesn't walk a ton of guys. He never has in his minor league career. He was always under 2 walks per 9, except for maybe in AAA in 2019, his first taste there. But um, this is a guy who he gets the ball on the ground a lot, over 60% in 2020 on ground ball rate, which is incredibly good. That Olie did not giving up a ton of homers. I think Randy Dubnak's a pretty solid option to have as like a number 5 pitcher or maybe a swing guy. And, you buy him out of a couple of years of his, of his contract renewal. You go ahead and set that up. And then, obviously, with those club options, you give him a little bit of a raise in the contract renewal, and then you get those club options in arbitration. that'll help a lot with Randy Dobnak and being able to keep him at a good cost if he ends up being a consistent, pretty good starter. But it'll be interesting to see what they do here. Obviously, there's no risk to the team when it comes to club options, so you know that I think that's great for them. And then for Randy Dobnak, this is a guy who was in indie ball not too long ago and didn't get drafted. So
Yeah.
you're looking at a guy who now he's going to be making millions. So I think both sides pretty good deal. Not a huge extension, but good for both ends here.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that he's a feel good story. Like you said, he was undrafted at a Division two school, and when he wasn't playing the games, he was being an Uber driver. And that he expresses on Twitter so much that his disdain for one writer that gave him a 4-star rating, so now he only has a 4.99. So he's pretty upset with that one guy. But right now his plan, or the plan for the Twins, is he's going to be a long reliever out of the bullpen with the potential to be a starter. Maybe if J.A. Happ or Matt Shoemaker goes down. So good deal for everyone around, and good to see a guy like Randy Dobnak get some security in the majors.
Absolutely, love to see that.
So. Well, that's pretty much all the moves we had happen this week. So we want to jump over and give you our rundown of our AL predictions. Go through each division, give you what we think our wild card matchup will be, and then give you our Rookie of the Year, our Cy Young, and our MVP. So to start it off, let's go ahead and jump with the AL East, and let's hear yours first, Matt.
Yeah, so my AL East predictions, I got the Yankees winning the division. I think there might have been a little bit of a question mark there, but at the beginning of the offseason and especially after seeing some of the moves the Blue Jays were making. But the Blue Jays have had some injury issues here throughout the offseason and into the spring. The Yankees seem to have stayed pretty healthy. Their team seems to be intact. They've even got some guys coming back from injury, midway through the year. They missed all the year last year, like Luis Severino, he might be back in the fold. So I think, the Yankees, they got Aaron Judge, they've got Gleyber Torres. They're going to have DJ LeMahieu back. You know, we'll see what we get from Gary Sanchez, but he's had a pretty decent spring. Um, they just got a lot of really really solid hitters in that lineup, and then at the top of their rotation they got Garrett Cole. So a little bit of a worry about the Yankees starting rotation behind Garrett Cole. You need to see what we're going to get from Severino there, and obviously Tanaka is gone. But maybe Corey Kluber, how's he going to do? They've got a couple of their guys, Jordan Montgomery and Davy Garcia, those types of guys who we'll see if one of them can step up. And then when you look at their bullpen, it's just stacked. I mean, it's hard to do anything with that bullpen with Aroldis Chapman at the back end. Chad Green's pretty good. I mean, they got Zach Britton when he's healthy. Hopefully, he'll be healthy at some point. I think that Yankees team is pretty solid. So I got them at number one. How about you, Damien?
Yeah, I got the Yankees at one. Uh, everything you said. I think Jameson Tyon's going to be a big pickup for them too. I really liked him
Yep.
with the Pirates. So going over to New York, hopefully getting into a winning situation helps him, step his game up even another level. Um, like you said, their rotation's so good, their bullpen's so good, their offense when everybody's healthy. Like if Judge and Stanton are healthy, I mean they're going to hit 50 home runs each most likely in that ballpark. If they can get Gary Sanchez back to something, something that's not last year, like where he's hitting under 100 and just no power. Like if you can get Gary Sanchez back to where he's hitting 230, 240, I mean, and then he's giving you 20 to 25 home runs, like that team is going to be very, very hard to beat. I do know they lost Luke Voigt for a little bit of time, but I just don't think that anybody in the rest of this division has the depth or the pieces as good as the Yankees to jump up there and beat them.
Yeah, the Yankees have sneaky depth too because they got guys like Aaron Hicks is a really good baseball player,
Yeah.
and Giovanni Urshela is a really good baseball player. Those are two really good players that honestly, like they would probably be stars on other teams, but for the Yankees, they're just good, solid role players, and that's the sign of a team that's really deep. And if they're healthy, they're going to be a tough team to beat. But
Yeah.
who do you think their biggest contenders are here to topple the
I
Yankees?
I still have the defending AL champions, Tampa Bay Rays, in number two. They did lose Blake Snell, and that's going to hurt for sure. But there's something about this Rays team that they just find a way around it. Losing Charlie Morton's going to hurt as well, but they're going to find some way to make Chris Archer be Cy Young contender Chris Archer for some reason. Like it's just something that they do, that they find ways to make pieces that are either have been really bad or pieces nobody heard of to be really, really good. And I just don't trust the Blue Jays bullpen, the Blue Jays starters. Really, I just don't trust them enough to jump the Rays as of right now. I don't. That could change if the Blue Jays make a couple trades or something throughout the season. But as we're looking at it right now, I just still think that the Rays are just a little bit better team than the Toronto Blue Jays. Not by much, but it's close.
Yeah, and I think you could pick either one of those teams for second. And honestly, the Red Sox, maybe if Sell had been healthy, but with the news that we talked about last week with Sell being out, I don't think the Red Sox are going to have a chance to do it. But you look at the Blue Jays. I like them as the number two team, and mainly because I think they're the biggest challenge to the Yankees in the way that they have more upside as a team. Like I think they got more young talent that could take the next step than the Rays do right now. You look at guys like Vlad Jr. and Bo Bichette, Kevin Biggio, and then all the talent they've added. I know some of the guys are going to be missing early. You're going to have like Springer might miss a little bit of time early. Obviously Kirby Yates out for the season hurts them really bad, but their rotation is sneaky good. Hyunjin Ryu, a really good pitcher at the top of that rotation. And you got to remember they added Marcus Simeon in their lineup too. I mean, they've added a lot of really good pieces there. I think Nate Pearson could take a step this year. I just feel like there's a lot more upside with the Blue Jays and the Rays right now. So I have them at number two. The Rays, I mean, you could have flip flopped them either way. I really am worried about the Rays rotation right now, which sounds weird because the Rays always have a good rotation. But I mean, they lost their veteran presence, the pitcher, and Charlie Morton, who had been really, really good the last 2 years. And they lost Blake Snell, who was the Cy Young winner year before last, or in 2018. And then, this past year really led them in the playoffs, was their ace throughout the playoffs. Tyler Glass now, I think, has a chance to be an ace, but he's still a little bit inconsistent. And their lineup, it's it's hard to bet against the Rays, but man, their lineup just doesn't. It has a lot of holes in it. I mean, you look at the outfield. Rose Arena, is he gonna be? He's not gonna be what he was in the playoffs. He's gonna be good, but he's not gonna be what he was in the playoffs. And then if you look around the diamond, I mean, he just carried them in the playoffs. But like they got guys like Manny Marco. I don't think he's gonna be great. He's gonna be good. He'll be fine, but look at the infield. Willie Adames, he's okay. He's a good shortstop for defensive player. His offense is hit or miss. I think a lot of the Rays is going to come down to whether or not Wander Franco is able to come up and immediately make a huge impact. Because if Wander Franco can come up and play like what we think Wander Franco could be, then um, they might have a real shot here because he's got a chance to be the best player in the game someday. But right now, it's a big time unknown, and I just feel like they're going to struggle to score runs this year. Honestly, I mean, a lot of their other guys are platoon guys, which the Rays are really good at. Yandy Diaz, G-Man Choi. I mean, they got some guys who can really play. Yoshi Tsugo, but they're not. They're going to rely on a lot of unheralded guys that again. But I just see them falling off a lot. They lost Hunter Renfro too. I think Zunino ended up re-signing there, but there's a lot of pieces that they needed that they've lost to this team that and their bullpen. Right? You can't forget Nick Anderson being gone. I mean, they lost a couple of other relievers too. I do have them in third. So My other two are the Red Sox. I've gotten fourth. Like I say, the Red Sox are better than people think they are. If they were going to have sell back all year, I would have thought about putting them somewhere in the top three. Obviously, not number one, but maybe number two or three, because they still have Devers, Bogarts. Uh, they've got a pretty good lineup there. Martinez, but Verdugo had a breakout year last year. But I'm just still worried about that rotation and bullpen. Garrett Richards has signed with them, but he hasn't looked very good this spring. I'm worried about them, and then the Orioles. I think just by default are fifth, even though they might be a little bit better than they have been.
Yeah, I have the Orioles in last and the Red Sox in fourth as well.
Yeah.
Not much to really say about them. I don't think that they'll be threatening those top three at all. I think you're going to be looking at the Reds. Best case scenario for the Red Sox is, I mean, best case is probably 500 this year.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that.
so,
But I will tell you one thing to look at with the Orioles. They have some young pitchers coming up, and it's going to be very important for the Orioles to develop young pitching because they haven't been able to do that in a long time. But they have that new front office now from what they had, and that's going to be something important to look at, like Keegan Aiken. What's he going to look like? And then also, are you going to see Adley Rutschman? Because there's a lot of people super excited about him and his future. So there's some things to look at with the Orioles for sure.
let's go ahead and jump over to the AL Central, where I think we'll have a little bit of disagreement here, at least in the top of this division. I have the Minnesota Twins winning this division, with the White Sox, coming in a close second to the Twins. But I just do think that loss of Eloy is going to matter a little bit more to the White Sox this year. And the Twins, I just think that they're so good. I mean, if Buxton can have a full season, if Max Kepler can continue developing, if Jose Barrios on a contract year, does he have a big year? Kenta Maeda looked really, really good last year when he went there. They signed Alex Colomé over from the White Sox, put into the back end of that bullpen with Taylor Rogers. So I like the Twins over the White Sox. If Eloy was in the White Sox lineup, it might be flipped. But I mean, these two teams are really, really close as it is. So you could flip these either way.
Yeah, and I think that's a pretty good assessment there. I do have the White Sox at number one, kind of for similar reason that I've got the Blue Jays over the Rays. I just feel like there's more upside with the White Sox team. That they could have guys. They have a lot of guys that are young that could break out a little bit. Like Luis Robert, he was really good last year for a little while. Then he cooled off. Then he got hot again in the postseason. That's a guy who I think has a chance to really do well. Um, there's been a lot of talk about Eloy Jimenez and losing him, and I was just talking up Eloy Jimenez a minute ago, but at the end of the day, he is a DH slash below average outfielder type with a big bat, and that's exactly what I think Andrew Vaughn could be. I think he could just be a copy of what Eloy Jimenez was to them. So um, I don't really think they're losing. I don't think there's going to be quite as much drop off there as people are expecting, and they've got good players all over the place. I mean, Tim Anderson's really good. The defending MVP Jose Abreu at first. I don't think he'll be quite as good as he was last year, but he's going to be good. Yasmani Grandal behind the plate is a steady a catcher as we have in the big leagues right now. He's been up there as a top five catcher or so for a long time now. And then the rotation, you got Giolito in there. You added Lance Lynn. You still got some veteran presence with Keuchel. Um, and then you've got some young guys too that have come up and might be poking back into that rotation, or they got a lot of room for growth, and you might end up getting like a Garrett Croce pitching out of the rotation at some point, or maybe even like a Michael Kopech coming back, which would be very, very cool for them. And Dylan Cease as well is another young guy that's a highly touted prospect that's trying to figure it out a little bit. So I like the upside of the White Sox. I've got them winning the AL Central, even though I think it's going to be really close. I've got the Twins in second. I do think there's a little bit of aging with the Twins. I think a lot of their production is going to rely on Nelson Cruz and Josh Donaldson, who I like both of them a ton. I'm a huge Josh Donaldson fan. He's an Auburn guy. I loved him when he played for the Braves. I still like him a lot, but he's also aging and has dealt with a lot of injuries in the past several years. And then Nelson Cruz is what, 41. I mean, I think Nelson Cruz is going to do well, but there's going to be a day where Nelson Cruz doesn't do well, and who knows when that might be. But I think it's a safer bet that the White Sox young guys are able to improve than Nelson Cruz is able to, put up the same numbers he's put up. So, I like the Twins. I like them a lot. That's why I have them in second. And spoiler alert, I have them as one of my wild card teams too. So.
Yeah, I think the rest of this division is kind of just clear cut. I think it's going to be the Indians in third, the Royals in fourth, the Tigers in fifth. The Indians are still really good. I mean, really good compared to the other two teams. They still have Shane Bieber. You still have some like Jose Ramirez. You got a couple pieces that you're hoping to see quite a bit from, like Andres Jimenez. Seems like Ahmed Rosario isn't making as much of an impact as they thought he would already be making. Already losing that shortstop job to Jimenez. But you still have a solid all around team, better than the Royals, better than the Tigers, who are both well into the or starting their rebuilds.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the Indians. I think you look at Shane Bieber and the way that they just develop pitching, Plesac and Savali and Tristan McKenzie behind him. Even though they've lost a couple guys, they lost Clevenger, they traded him last year. They traded Carrasco, they've traded Lindor, they've traded some guys. They're still good. Their outfield with Josh Naylor, is going to play well, I think, for them. They brought back Cesar Hernandez at second base. That's big for them. They've got a pretty good team. They're going to have good infield defense again. They're going to hit well. I think they're still a decent team. I don't know if they have quite as much talent as the top two teams in this division. That's why I have them third, but they're solid. The Royals, they've made some moves that I think are kind of competitive moves, like the Benintendi trade. They signed Carlos Santana. Uh, they've got some young pitchers in there. Like what's the kid's name from Florida?
Singer,
Singer, Brady Singer. Yeah,
Brady Singer.
he's solid. They got that Bubik kid, and then you look at the rest of their farm system and rotation. They got a lot of upper minors pitchers that are going to be there soon, but so do the Tigers. I mean, I've got them in fifth as well, but they've got some up and coming guys like Casey Mize, Tariq Skubal, Matt Manning, and then they've also got some big up and coming hitters. I think the Tigers are built better for the future than the Royals, but I think for this year, I think I would probably put my bet on the Royals being just a little bit better. But these two teams are clear cut 4 and 5 here. They're way behind the other three, and I think the Indians are a step behind the White Sox and Twins. The White Sox and Twins could go either way, though. I think this is going to be an entertaining division to watch down to the end.
Absolutely, I think the same thing. Um, so let's go ahead and jump over to the AL West, where I think we might have a couple surprises here. That's going to surprise quite a bit of quite a few people, and that is that we both have the Anaheim Angels winning the division.
Yeah, and I think the Angels are going to sneak up on some people this year because if you look at them on paper, they're really good. I mean, they got the best player in baseball, but then it's clear cut best player in baseball still, in Mike Trout. They've got a top 5 third baseman who it's a top 15 player in baseball in Anthony Rendon. They've got two big centerpiece superstars in their lineup. And then you look at them around the infield, and David Fletcher's a solid player, and I really expect that a couple of their guys that struggled last year to bounce back to a certain level. Like I don't think Justin Upton is a superstar player. I don't think he's an all-star level player anymore, but I think he's better than what he showed last year, and I think he'll hit somewhere. He might hit somewhere in the 230s, but he's gonna hit some home runs, and he's gonna have decent production. I think Shohei Ohtani might be healthy now, and he's shown in the spring that he hasn't been super consistent pitching yet, but he's pitched and his velocity's back and he looks good. Um, the stuff is there. He's probably going to have to. He hadn't really pitched much in 2 years, so he's going to have to kind of rein it back in a little bit. But Shohei Ohtani's there, and he's going to hit well too. So you got some good, powerful bats in there, plus Shohei Ohtani on the mound, and you got some other good pitchers too, like Andrew Heaney. He's a solid pitcher. He's not a number one. He's probably not a number two, but he's a really solid number three. And then if you can get a guy like Jose Quintana back to his form, uh, there was a lot of expectations for him in Chicago after the big trade where a couple of guys we just talked about with the White Sox were big centerpieces in that trade, and a lot of people were skeptical of it then, and are still, and that trade doesn't look good at all now. But there was a lot of pressure on Jose Quintana, and he also dealt with some injuries. So maybe now he's got a little bit of a reset. I like that. I like the thought of signing him for the Angels. So um, they traded for Alex Cobb, who isn't great, but he's something. And they got some young guys too, like Brandon Marsh and Joe Adele, who could step up at the plate. They also got Jose Iglesias they brought in. And Andrelton Simmons is a guy who's dealt with injuries the last couple of years, so that'll probably be an upgrade since Simmons hadn't played all the time. They brought in the other Iglesias, Rizel from the Reds, and they added to their bullpen. That's going to help them a lot. I really think this team made some really smart moves. I would have liked to have seen them make a big ticket signing, like a pitcher of some kind, to kind of be their ace. I think they really need an ace, but I've got them number one just because. I mean, I look at them. I think they're the best team in this division.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention Dylan Bundy, who had a fantastic
Oh
season
man,
last
I can't
year.
believe I didn't even mention him.
I mean, they
Just
still have
blanked on
Dylan
that.
Bundy,
Yeah,
who
he's
last year
good.
he pitched like a one
Yeah, he.
at times.
Yeah, I think he'll be a two
Um,
this year. I really think
so
he will.
well, now
He's.
you're so that just adds to that rotation you're talking about, though. So you're talking about Dylan Bundy, Quintana, Andrew Heaney, Alex Cobb. I mean, Shohei Otani, whatever you can get out of him. Griffin Canning, who has shown flashes of being really good. He's shown flashes of not being really good, but he has potential to be. Even today they made a couple below the radar signings of signing Tony Watson and Steve Cishek to throw into that bullpen, who are still two serviceable major league relievers that have a lot of
Yeah,
experience.
I like them a lot.
And then they just brought back Noe Ramirez as well, who they traded for Rafael Iglesias in the offseason. The Reds cut him and they brought him right back. So this Angels team has done a lot to the pitching staff. Like it's not the big ticket signing like we were all expecting or wanting it to be, but they've done quite a lot to this team. And trying to throw pieces around Mike Trout to push to make a playoff run finally. We both also have the Astros in second. This team is still so stacked with talent. You still have Jose Altuve, you still have Carlos Correa, you still have Jordan Alvarez, you still have Alex Bregman. Um, but the real lack for them is going to be what their pitching is. We already talked about Verlander being out, Framber Valdez being out. What are you going to get from Zach Greinke? Are you going to get a full season from Lance McCullers? What's Jose Urquidy going to do? Is he going to be a full-time pitcher, starting pitcher? Are you going to throw him back to the bullpen again? You have guys like Christian Javier who still have question marks. And then you didn't really do anything to improve that bullpen either.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I like the Astros because they've got all that name brand talent, but at a certain point, Altuve, what's he gonna be this year? He wasn't that good last year. He was good in the playoffs, but in the regular season, he really just wasn't all that good. And then you look at, I think he'll be somewhere in between. But you look at first base, Gurriel. He wasn't very good last year. What's he going to be? Probably not as bad as he was last year. He'll probably be somewhere in the middle, in between. You lost George Springer. You have to get the next step from Kyle Tucker, which he showed some signs of it last year of improvement. So maybe you do get that from him. But Jordan Alvarez has to stay healthy. There's a lot of variables with this team, and not to mention the pitching staff. I mean, you're looking at a team with, like we talked about Lance McCullers earlier. He's only thrown 130 innings as a max in his career. He's never gotten to that point. So you're talking about your best pitcher from last year, your breakout guy, Framber Valdez being out, Justin Verlander obviously still out this year. I mean, I'm not a huge believer in Jose Urquidy. I think he could be okay, but you lost your top prospect. That was a pitcher in uh, uh, in Forrest Whitley, sorry, and then you lose. Zach Greinke really showed signs of aging last year, late in the season, and I mean, I just don't expect their pitching to keep up and hold up. And I think this is one of the weaker divisions in baseball. But man, you know I expect them to hit well for the most part. I think Correa is going to hit well. I think Bregman's going to hit well, and I think a lot of their other guys who had at one time were superstars that are still pretty good players are going to hit all right, but I don't think they're good enough offensively to just carry them like they once were. So you know, their bullpen, it's okay. They still got Ryan Presley, I think, right? And
But they have him, but he's battled
yeah,
injuries the past couple years as
he's
well.
battled injuries a little bit, but he's solid when he's out there. And they've got they brought in Pedro Baez. I mean, he could probably get them a solid ERA and
Well,
pitch some good innings, but
good on him to
he's
find.
no kind of closer or anything like that. So
You know
um,
my feelings about Pedro
yeah,
Baez.
I know. But he the Astros are going to be number 2 in this division in my opinion, and they might win it. I mean, this is a weak division. The Angels could be what the Angels have been the last few years, and if so, the Astros are probably the best competition for them by default. But we'll see what happens here. I think it's very interesting.
Absolutely. I still have the A's as third in this division. I don't think that the Mariners are right there. They're close, but I just like that Sean Manaea, like Jesus Luzardo. I just think that these guys, Matt Olson, Matt Chapman, I still think that they have just enough talent to keep them over the Mariners. I don't think it's going to be an A's team you're going to see competing for the playoffs or in the playoffs like we saw the past couple years. Losing Liam Hendricks, losing Marcus Simeon, those are two big losses to this team. The Mariners I have right there in fourth, bringing in a guy like James Paxton, letting your guys develop a little bit more. I think the Mariners are better than people think they are, but I just don't think that they're quite good enough to take that third spot just yet. Probably next season for sure. And then the Rangers, I think they're the clear cut worst team in this division.
Yeah, and third through fifth, I've actually got the Mariners in third. I like some of the moves they've made. I think bringing James Paxton back is going to help them a lot. He's going to help stabilize that rotation. I liked what I saw last year from Justice Sheffield, making some improvements, and then you add that to a guy like Marco Gonzalez, who's been a real consistently decent pitcher. Last year was actually really good, but in the previous years was pretty consistently decent. You've got some guys who at the top of your rotation who can at least give you pretty good innings. You look at their lineup, and I mean, you might get Mitch Haniger back for a while. He when he's healthy, he's been good in the past. Kyle Seager's still a really solid third baseman. J.P. Crawford's done well. Kyle Lewis, their defending rookie of the year, he was solid last year. I think he's going to play well. And then you might get a guy like Jared Kelenic in there, who is a really good looking prospect that could come up and do really well this year. So, I mean, I like the Mariners. It might just be a hunch. I feel like they're on the upswing. I might be too early to move them up in the division at all. I don't think they're going to contend for the playoffs, but I do have them third. I feel like the A's have been living on the edge the last few years to start with. They've won a lot of really close games. They've had a little bit of they put themselves in a position to have good fortune, but they have had some good fortune winning a lot of those games. And I think losing Marcus Simeon hurts them really bad. Losing Liam Hendricks hurts them really bad, and I still don't especially trust their pitching. I think Luzardo's upside is really good, but you look at the rest of their pitching, and I mean, Frankie Montas is all right, but is he going to be really good? I don't know. You look at some of their other guys like Bassett. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was last year. I mean, I don't know. I just don't especially love the A's, and then their bullpen. I think it's still gonna be all right, but losing Liam Hendricks, that he made that bullpen a lot better than it was. And, losing Liam Hendricks hurts them a lot. Then, I mean, I look at the Rangers as number 5 by a long distance. I mean, I could barely name anybody on their team other than Joey Gallo and maybe Kiner Falefa. And I mean, they're just not a good team at all. So they're definitely going into full blown rebuild mode. So we'll see what happens there. But I like I like the Mariners for third. So
Well, that will wrap up basically our division predictions before the season has started. Now, you gave a little hint earlier saying the Twins were in your wild card, but who do you have them facing?
yeah, I have them facing the Astros in the wild card. I think the Astros and the Angels are going to beat up on the other 3 teams in the AL West. And so I do feel like the Astros are able to win enough games just from playing the A's, the Rangers, and the Mariners enough times to get that wild card. And then the Twins, I think, are going to beat up on the Royals and Tigers, kind of in the same fashion. I look at the AL East, and I think the Red Sox and the Rays are good enough to give the Blue Jays enough losses to kind of keep them out. But I think the Yankees beat up on them good too, because I think the Yankees are really stacked. So I've got the Astros and the Twins, the wild card teams for me.
Well, that is pretty interesting. I have the Tampa Bay Rays versus the White Sox in mine. I think that the Astros are actually going to miss the playoffs this year. Pretty surprising. I just don't trust their depth around like we've been talking about, and you know if Altuve can bounce back, then maybe it's a different story. But Carlos Correa also seems to get a little disgruntled with them over the extension talks. I just don't think that the Astros are going to have enough this year to get there with the White Sox improving, and then the Rays, who went to the World Series last year. I still think they have enough talent to get by and at least get into this wild card game. It's kind of a pretty Rays move, anyways.
Oh yeah.
So, so
So
pretty much that's what I got on the wild card.
yeah,
Um,
sounds good. And let's look at our awards here real quick too. Um, who's your rookie of the year?
I actually have Garrett Crochet from the White Sox. Now, I know he's going to be a reliever for most of the season. He might get a couple spot starts here. I just think that the impact he's going to have, I think he's going to be one of their more trusted relievers in leverage situations to get big outs, maybe even multiple innings, kind of like a Josh Hader role. I think that's what they kind of envision for Crochet. And I don't think that there's a clear cut like position player that we know for sure is gonna, like, if Wander Franco was up, I mean everyone would pick Wander Franco, or if Jared Kelenic was up, everybody would pick Kelenic. You know, I mean you can make an argument for maybe like a guy like Andres Jimenez from the Twins
I think
could make it.
is he still a rookie?
I think he is because he just came up last year.
Yeah, he played a lot
Um,
last year for the Mets, but I don't know how they did. I don't know if they prorated that or not.
Yeah,
Rookie.
last year the way that they factor him in is really weird. So that's another part, is that the rookies this year are still going to be really really weird. Of who guys played last year are still rookies. So I like the way Garrett Crochet. I mean, he made a big impact last year before that game in the playoffs where his arm started hurting him a little bit. So I mean that could be a concern, but I have Garrett Crochet from the White Sox as my rookie of the year.
I gotcha. That's a good. I think that's a good pick there. Very interesting pick. I like Garrett Crochet. I think he's going to do really well. But I have to pick, and I know I kind of hated on him a minute ago, saying he wasn't going to be as good as he was in the postseason last year. But I mean, Randy Arozarena is still a rookie, and he was really good last year, so I'm going to pick him. That's about all I have to say.
I mean, I guess if you watch the World Series, and how could you not pick him to be a rookie of the year?
Yeah.
I will be honest. When I made my pick, I did not realize that Randy Rosarena was still rookie
Yeah,
eligible.
yeah, and
Um,
the thing, and just to explain my thoughts on Rosario, I think he's very similar to a young Marcelo Zuna. He hits the ball really hard, and when Marcelo Zuna was a really young guy, he was a good outfielder and he was really athletic. And I think Rosarena's got all three of those traits. I think he could be a really really solid player for really. I don't know about five tool, but I think he's gonna do really well the next few years. So.
well, who do you got for your Cy Young?
My Cy Young is going to be the guy who won it last year. I think I've got Shane Bieber. I think that I would pick Garrett Cole if he wasn't pitching in Yankee Stadium, but I think that Garrett Cole's always been burned a little bit by the home run ball, and pitching in Yankee Stadium, that it's going to hurt his numbers enough. And Shane Bieber gets a lot of games against the Royals, the Tigers. The Indians don't have the best offense. Um, so I mean the Twins. I think Shane Bieber's the guy. He was just lights out last year. He's got perfect pinpoint control. His stuff has had upticks every year since he got to the big leagues. I really like Shane Bieber for the Cy Young.
Yeah, Bieber was right up there in contention when I was picking Cy Youngs too. I kind of wanted to go away from the repeat Cy Young Award winner. So I went with Lucas Giolito from the Chicago White Sox. Big thing for what you said, the same division. He's going to be able to beat up on the Indians, on the Royals, on the Tigers, and he does really really well against the Twins as well. So and he's shown very good progression these last couple years. I believe he even threw a no hitter last year, or was it 2 years ago he threw that no hitter?
Yeah, both.
Did he throw one in each year?
I know he threw one this past year.
I know for sure he threw one this past year.
Yeah, he might have thrown one year
Um,
before last. I don't know. Maybe it was just a one hit shutout or something. I remember him pitching some kind of crazy good game though.
yeah, I think he got really, really deep into one and gave up a hit on it. But anyways, Lucas Giolito is very, very good, and I don't think people quite understand just yet how good he is. Because the White Sox have been so bad, so now that they're going to be, contending for a playoff spot, I expect Giolito to even take another step up, and kind of get more recognition for it. So going with Lucas Giolito for my Cy Young.
Yeah,
But
I really like that pick too. I thought about picking him, and I think he's going to have another really good year. So that's a good one.
yeah, and Cole was in contention, like you said. Garrett Cole. I mean, if he can limit the home run ball in Yankee Stadium, that's going to be that's going to be a big thing for him. So another guy to watch out for.
Yeah,
But I don't even think we need to mention the MVP.
yeah.
Really, I
I mean,
mean,
we know who it
this
is.
just needs to be called the Mike Trout Award,
Yeah,
because we both have Mike Trout for MVP. I mean, best player in baseball, and you can't really pick against the best player in baseball as long as there's a full 162 game season, barring injury. Like Mike Trout just makes such an impact on the game on both sides of the ball that you just can't pick against him. I mean, he is just so good. I know I keep repeating myself, but I mean, what can this guy really not do?
there's nothing, and I think that's why obviously we've kind of we have had obvious picks the last couple weeks on these awards, and we really didn't want to pick the same guy, but we couldn't decide who was not allowed to pick Trout because we just know that the overwhelming favorite, especially if you believe in the Angels, is Mike Trout. If you don't believe in the Angels, then maybe you could say, well, he's not going to be on a great team. But obviously, we're both believers in the Angels, picking them to win the division. Trout, he hits for power. He makes contact. He's cut his strikeout rate a lot every year, except maybe this past year, but shortened season. Um, he's a great outfielder, athletic, steals bases still, even maybe not quite as many as he did his first couple of years, but he still steals a lot of bases. His arm has honestly gotten better. I mean, that was the knock on him for a while, was his arm wasn't lights out, but it's gotten better. I mean, he's just a really, really, really good player. He's a generational talent. I'm not. I'm telling you, until Mike Trout has a real drop off of a season, I'm not going to pick against him. Even if he doesn't win it this year, if he still looks like Mike Trout, then I'm going to pick him next year, and I'm going to keep picking him until he's not good anymore because he's just the best player in baseball. I mean, and you can't pick against that, honestly.
No, you can't. And it's just the sustained success that Mike Trout has had. Like, this is one of the best players that we will. I mean, the best player that we probably will ever see play the game. And I mean, just the way that he can go out there year after year after year after year after year and just put up the insane numbers he does. It's truly amazing. And like you said, you until he shows you otherwise that he doesn't have 40 home run power and able to hit a 300 or above and just walk an insane amount, still play really good defense, still like you can't pick against Mike Trout, really. I mean, there's years where other guys will win it, but they probably shouldn't. Like, you
Yeah,
should just call this the Mike Trout Award, pretty much.
yeah, for sure. So now that we've got our divisions picked and we know who we're gonna have as kind of our contenders, who is your World Series pick at the end of the day? Who's gonna win it
Oh,
all coming October or November?
are we picking who's going to win it all? Or are we picking just the matchup?
Just who's gonna win it?
Oh, well,
Well,
it
you know
is
what? You know
very
what? Actually, pick the matchup and then who's gonna win it because I want to hear
okay.
who. I know who you're gonna pick, but who's gonna win the AL? It's I know who you're gonna pick to win the NL. So
Yeah, I'm picking the Dodgers to win the NL. The AL, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Chicago White Sox are going to make it through the wild card game and go all the way
wow,
to the World Series, and that it will be a World Series of White Sox, Dodgers, and it's going to go to Game 6,
and
and
you're
the
picking the
LA
Dodgers, right?
Dodgers are
Yeah,
going to
okay,
win that. Yeah.
that's what I thought. So I think I'm actually gonna go with the Fox Sports Dream matchup for the World Series. I know I picked the Padres to win the NL West last week, but I'm picking the Dodgers to go through the wild card and win. Even though I have them playing the Mets in the wild card, and anytime you're facing Jacob Degrom, it's going to make it very difficult. But I'm going to have them go into go into the World Series from the NL and from the AL. I'm gonna pick the Yankees. I think they're the most complete team in the AL, and I'm gonna pick the Yankees to win, but mainly because I just don't want to pick the same team as you. But I mean, I feel like the Yankees are by law of percentages. It's the same reason that the Dodgers, by law of percentages, they were eventually going to win. They've had this great team. They've been such a standout franchise for the last 10 years. They've won the division every single year. They're always in there. They're always been close. Played in the World Series a couple times before last year, and you just knew that at some point they're going to break through. And the Yankees are kind of the same way. This is 5 or 6 years in a row they've been one of the best teams in baseball. I really like their pitching and especially their bullpen, the top of their rotation, some of that back end of the rotation that we're a little worried about. That's not quite as big of a deal in the postseason. And I feel like by law of averages, they're going to stay healthy for once. I mean, they've had so many injuries. I mean, Stanton's been out a lot. Aaron Hicks has been out a lot. Judge has been out a lot. I mean, you've got a lot of guys that have been banged up, and I just feel like the Yankees are eventually going to have a season where they're able to stay healthy and put it together and get there. They brought back DJ LeMahieu. They seem to have really good chemistry as a team, and I don't know. I mean, I just feel like they're hungry for it. Their players all want it real bad. The Dodgers, you could see a little bit of a World Series hangover from them. They finally won it for the first time in 30 years or whatever it was. And I mean, I'm gonna go with the Yankees. So
So you're picking the Yankees to win.
yeah, and I'd pick them in hell. I'll go ahead and say 7 games. So
I mean, the MLB and Rob Manfred is absolutely loving you for that pick right
yeah,
there.
I know. I know Rob Manfred loves the Yankees Dodgers World Series going to 7 games. Fox Sports will love that. ESPN doesn't get to cover it, but they'll still love that because they'll talk about it for months and months and months. And but I think those are the two highest payrolls in baseball. I mean, they're spending a gargantuan fortune of money, and both teams just have so many good pieces. And I think it's going to be the matchup here. So
Well, that has been our AL predictions, and we even gave you a little World Series prediction in there. So, overall, I think we're going to look pretty dumb at the end of the day.
oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but just to wrap it up for you guys, for the NL, I have the Braves, the Brewers, the Dodgers winning with a Padres Mets wild card. Matt has the Braves, Brewers, and Padres winning with a Dodgers Mets wild card. I have Brian Hayes, Blake Snell, and Francisco Lindor for Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and MVP, while Matt has Ian Anderson, Jacob DeGrom for Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, and MVP. And then over in the AL, you got the Yankees for both of us, the Twins for me in the AL Central, and the Angels in the AL West, while Matt has the Yankees, the White Sox, and the Angels. Wild card, Matt has the Astros versus Twins. I have the Rays versus the White Sox. And then our awards are Garrett Crochet, Lucas Giolito, and Mike Trout for my awards. Randy Rosarena, Shane Bieber, Mike Trout for Matt's awards. And then our World Series predictions, Matt has Yankees, Dodgers with the Yankees in 7. And I have the White Sox versus Dodgers with the Dodgers in 6. Everybody got that?
It sounds good to
Uh,
me. I think it's you know probably pretty good predictions there for both of us, and I'm super excited for the season. I can't wait till Thursday. We'll have actual baseball to talk about next week, and that'll be fun.
Absolutely. Opening day is right around the corner, and we will be sure to keep you up to date throughout the season of what is happening. So this has been the Batflip Podcast, episode 30, actually. So it's a cool little milestone we hit. But we'll catch you guys next week.
Thanks for tuning in.